Jaxon Smith-Njigba might not be the most physically talented wide receiver we have seen in the NFL draft, but his intangibles and savviness have people wondering if he is wide receiver 1 in the NFL draft in 2023. Smith-Njigba lacks some of the elite traits that you really look for in an alpha number 1 wide receiver, and it's kind of interesting because he doesn't have elite level speed. I think the 40-yard dash is going to be a very important event for him at the NFL Combine if he is able to run. I think anything in the 4.4s, maybe even 4.5s would be a good time for him. If it gets to the 4.6s or lower than that, I do think it could potentially cause a draft slide for him. If he runs better than people expect, I do foresee him being up there in consideration for wide receiver 1, but he doesn't really show elite speed on tape. Not to mention, he really doesn't have amazing size either. He's listed at 6'1" at Ohio State. I think he's probably a little bit smaller than that. He doesn't really use his size incredibly well for contested catch opportunities. He's not a very good blocker. He doesn't show a lot of effort there, and he's not great after the catch as well. That includes both because of his speed and because of his size. He really isn't able to make defenders miss very often. I do think he is not the most agile player on the planet either. He can get out of route breaks pretty well. He can make defenders miss, but he's just not able to stop on a dime like some of these other wide receiver prospects we've seen. Not to mention, he did miss the entire 2022 season due to a hamstring injury, and he's pretty much only played in the slot. He's not going to be an outside X kind of wide receiver for you. There's a lot of drawbacks here with Jaxon Smith-Njigba when it comes to his physical tools, but I don't think that's going to hold him back in the NFL because that's not how he wins at all in college, and I think that's very important to see. Instead of winning due to physical traits and just being able to dominate the person across from you, Smith-Njigba wins with intangibles and savviness. He's one of the better route runners I have seen. Jaxon Smith-Njigba reads coverages incredibly well and is really able to manipulate defenders with his intangibles, and that allows him to really get great separation for his quarterback. He uses head fakes and different kinds of just ways to create separation from the defenders. He's also got a really nice release package and great footwork, which allows him to create separation right off the jump. And he's great at attacking the leverage of defenders. He's able to read how the defender is playing him, whether it's outside leverage, inside leverage. He's trying to not let him get beat deep. He's really able to attack that leverage rather than playing into what the corner wants him to do. He's able to attack it, make them uncomfortable, and then snap that route back the other way. And he's absolutely able to cook some of these guys because of making them really uncomfortable there. He's able to beat the press pretty consistently if he ever does get pressed because of that great footwork, because players are worried about his two-way go ability from the slot. He can beat you inside, he can beat you outside, and that makes it really tough for a defender to want to go up and press because he can beat you in so many different ways right off the jump on a route concept. A lot of times defenders try to play back, doesn't really work, but his route running and ability to manipulate defenders at the line is just a really another big strength of his game. I also think Smith-Njigba has really nice hands as well. He's able to consistently show that he can catch outside the frame of his body, able to reel in tough catches, and he's not necessarily the best when it comes to contested catches, but he's able to fight for balls and make them competitive. He doesn't use his frame amazingly to create that separation at the catch point and high point passes, but if it is right on his chest or he has to go pluck it out of the air, he's definitely coming down with it. Really didn't see any drop problems at all from Smith-Njigba, so that was another big plus for him there. The thing about Jaxon Smith-Njigba is you know what you're getting. I think he's one of the safest players in the NFL draft, and I think he has an incredibly high floor. But that doesn't mean he's going to be an elite level player in the NFL because of those physical limitations we talked about earlier. But I do think you know what you're going to get with Smith-Njigba. He's not going to win due to size, due to speed, due to athleticism. But if you can live with that, you're going to have a wide receiver that can win based on intangibles and savviness, really able to manipulate defenders, win with great route running, win by creating separation, and create a very easy over-the-middle target for a young quarterback. I think he could be an incredibly valuable piece there. It is worth noting that his former teammates at Ohio State, Chris Olave, and Offensive Rookie of the Year, Garrett Wilson, both said that Smith-Njigba is the best wide receiver of the three of them. And in a lot of ways, due to the intricacies and the techniques of the position, I think in a lot of ways, Jaxon Smith-Njigba is the best of them. He doesn't have the physical gifts that Olave and Wilson do, which really caps his ceiling, but I do think from just a baseline floor level perspective, Smith-Njigba has all of the route running intricacies, ability to create separation, good hands. He's just very technically sound at the position, and I think that's incredibly valuable. He's not going to be a player that everybody rates very highly, but for me, I really like the consistency, his savviness, his intangibles, and I think it's going to translate very well to the NFL. Those are ways that you can consistently win in the NFL. If you're just bullying players, you might not be able to bully an NFL level cornerback, but because Smith-Njigba is able to win in ways that do not rely on his athleticism, I think he's going to be very consistent when it comes to the NFL, and he's going to put up productive numbers from day one. For Jaxon Smith-Njigba, I have a final grade of an 86.92, which is a late first round grade on my grading scale. In a wide receiver draft class that doesn't have a ton of stability, doesn't have a lot of high floor players, I think there's a very good chance that Jaxon Smith-Njigba does end up as my wide receiver 1. I don't rate him super highly in this class, but I'm not sure there's any wide receivers that I really like much more than him. I love the baseline play that you're going to get from him. I think he could be a great number 2 wide receiver in the NFL. He could be the focal point of an offense, but I think he could be an absolute stud slot complement to an outside wide receiver and really take a lot of pressure off the quarterback being open in the middle of the field. That's my scouting report on Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Let me know down below what you think. Check out these other scouting reports right now.